it's me. I wanted to take a minute to say, hi, it's been a while. I know, sorry about that. It's been hectic around here, so hectic that last night I didn't even get my mantra published. It's recorded but not published, so I'll be pushing that out in a little while. But first, I wanted to think about my new website. If you haven't seen it, coachedandloved.com is up. Yay! And there's a little spoiler at the bottom that tells you about the fitness protection program coming soon. This changes nothing. I have always said, I'm taking a break from my biggest commitments while my son's IEP and school situation is worked out. That process is not yet initiated. Okay? So fitness protection is coming. I just don't know when. My family comes first, then coaching comes next, once I know how much time I will have to devote to coaching itself. So I appreciate that, but the website is really nice. I also wanted to have a centralized platform to answer all your questions because it is really hard to communicate without a platform. Here's what that means. What am I up to right now? Hard to find out. You go to my Facebook page and you might see what I did yesterday, but you want to see something higher level about what I was thinking when, with the podcast. Am I still making the podcast? Am I going to continue the podcast? What am I thinking? What am I planning? If you're not on one of my mailing lists and you don't use Facebook and you don't use Instagram and you don't follow me on Strava and you don't ever go to my YouTube channel and you never come to Twitch, how am I supposed to tell you anything? It's really complicated. So I'm trying to have one centralized place with all things MK, and then you can go and pick and choose whatever you want and stay for the rest. So I digress. I wanted to speak very quickly about running form. So the new website has prompted some questions, and I love those questions. So the latest one was, hey Coach MK, I'm a multi-sport athlete that wants to get back into multi-sport stuff. Running has always been my weakest link. What do I do about running form? Do you have any recommendations where to start? So anyone that's worked with me for any period of time has probably heard me speak about form being a function of strength. I'm going to put that on t-shirts, literally, eventually. Form is a function of strength, just as a continual reminder. We can talk about foot strike all day long, and it will not make a damn bit of difference if you don't have glute strength propelling that strike. Because the biggest lever we can pull to affect change the most quickly, it's going to be talking about that thing you don't want to talk about. When you say to me, I want to work on foot strike, I want to work on gait and cadence, and I say, that's a last resort. Let's knock out all the high level, all the low-hanging fruit first, and that's glute strength, hip strength, coordination. I mean, if you have bad knees, what contributed to those bad knees? Was it maybe lack of glute strength, lack of hip strength, and overloading your knees? If so, what can we do? So the process that I always recommend before working on foot strike is sort of like, again, the last resort. Your glutes are strong. That means, and they call it the chair test. At least most PTs that I've worked with refer to this as the chair test. And can you see that here? Yep, okay. So it just means, can you, arms to the side, rise from a chair without having to lean forward or use momentum? Can you sit straight, raise your arms, and lift from a chair? See that from the front? What they're looking for when this happens, 1, 2, 3, how much are you leaning forward, and does your knee come inward? So the person that has to lean to this way, my body leans this way, my knee leans this way, that person can't get out of this chair. That person doesn't have glute strength. It's not about perfection, it's just about, do you have to give yourself like do I need a running start to get out of this chair? Or can I just rise? What we're looking for is the person who can just rise on both legs without leaning forward. That person has appropriate glute strength and hip coordination. That does not come naturally. It must be worked on. Because the way your feet hit the ground are all determined by the strength of the muscles that propel your feet to move forward in the first place. So talking about your feet might be the fun place to start, but honestly, a gait analysis is totally worthless I know everything I need to know about starting with you by the chair test. If you pass the chair test, great, we move on to the next thing. If you fail the chair test, and frankly, I've never had anyone pass the chair test in my presence, ever, ever, ever. Even people who were like, oh, God, fine, okay, fine, really pissy about it, fell right over, or couldn't get up. And I'm like, that's a fail. It's kind of like when I do an easy effort run with people, and they're like, totally, I can talk, see, I can talk, totally passing the talk test. I'm like, no, you're not. That is a fail. That is a hard fail. Sorry. So, we're so eager sometimes to get to that next step that we miss all the easy stuff. And my job as a coach is to make sure that you don't skip the low-hanging fruit or the easy stuff first. Tom Brady doesn't ever skip the easy stuff. That's why he's Tom Brady. And you know who else doesn't? Serena Williams. I had put a big post up on my Facebook page about 2 years ago before she had her baby. It was an article, an interview in Vanity Fair, and she talked about she didn't perform well. Sorry, she was pregnant. She did not perform well at the Australian Open, and leading into the Australian Open, the one before, where she found out she was pregnant. And her serve wasn't on, and she did not completely understand at the time that that's relaxin. That was because she was pregnant. And so, of course, with a loose joint, you can't generate all the force required to hit a ball as hard as she usually hits a ball. So instead of firing her coach or being like, my training plan doesn't work, she got her ass in the backyard and just hit, not a front hand, it was a backhand, over and over and over. A move so basic that even I know what it is, and I don't play tennis. But it's a fundamental move, and she just was like, okay, mine is off. For like 6 hours. Can you imagine one move over and over for 6 hours? A basic move. Serena Williams. So remember, Serena Williams doesn't get to do the fancy stuff because she's gifted and because she's Serena Williams, right? And Jesus just loves her more. Serena Williams is Serena Williams because she does not hesitate to get in her backyard and work on a fundamental when she thinks it's a little off. For some reason, runners think that, like, if I'm Shalane Flanagan, so I don't have to do that, rather than thinking I am Shalane Flanagan because I mastered everything in between. So let's go back to the basics. Let's really work on mastery. Start with the chair test. If the chair test hurts, if it feels like something's about to fall out, start with a pelvic floor PT. If you leak in your capris when you run, if you leak when you jump up and down, if sex is really, really painful, I don't want to hear that. Go to see a pelvic floor PT that can be fixed and addressed, because the muscles that are in there that are either tight and painful during sex or that are loose and so it feels like everything's going to fall out when you take a poo or when you try to lift yourself with one leg out of the chair, those lax muscles are going to contribute to extra pressure. Think of it as literally something falling down in there. That's going to put pressure on your hips and on your piriformis, and that will present in your running later. So one of the best things you can do for yourself now is get everything tucked in up in there. Even if you don't want to, start with the pelvic floor PT, get that on lockdown, and then move to regular PT and strengthening your glutes and your hips and everything around you. Okay, so that's Coach Thinks about running form. Anyone that insists on doing a gait analysis but has not had you perform a chair test, don't trust that PT. I mean it, and that answer will never, ever, ever change. So, that is what I think about that. You can see a comment saying hi. Hello, happy Saturday, strength for the win. Yeehaw, hello, Viola. So, by people doing 3 days at the fair, they should be out for their 1 hour, 45-minute run. I'm going to go upstairs after my shower and get everyone's plan in, but first I wanted to go over strength. So, the strength circuit that we are starting with is pretty hard, but if you have I just call this a squish ball. It's a redondo ball. You don't have to go buy a fancy one on Amazon. Just find some, 3/4 of the way inflated soccer ball in your house. A basketball is a little heavy. Let's go with something lighter. And that is the squish ball, and that is what I want you to use for these moves. Where is my interval timer? Here it is. Okay, I'm going to take that squish ball, Focus on form. Remember the first one? Actually, do I remember the first one? Oh, no. Huh. Wait a second, because if I do this incorrectly or I do it out of order, Susan is going to get very confused and get mad at me. And I don't like it when that happens. Because when Susan gets confused, I can barely get myself back together. So I'm going to write this down so I can't forget as I get going, Susan. Sorry. This series is called Big Time Squish. Okay, I think I called this knee squeeze, ankle squeeze, extend, and embrace. So starting off here, Yay, hi Susan. Head out for that run. Tabletop knees. Good run. I know, isn't Susan great? She's been doing awesome things and she calls me out when I'm confusing or when I say one thing and do another, which is never intended, it's just I got a whole lot of kids and not enough space to make notes. Interval timer. Here we go. Whoops, start. Yay. Want to get the small of your back just a little bit off the floor. Really knit those ribs together. Whoop. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't let your shoulders come off the floor. It's tempting to let them curl forward. Then squeeze. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alternating between pulsing and holding. 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ankles now. And yes, Susan, before you say anything, I thought it was supposed to be 30 seconds. Yeah, it was last week. We're upping it this week. Make sure when you press those ankles together, your knees are not coming in. Ten, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oof. Take as many breaks as you need to. This is really hard on your inner thighs. And that's intended. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. Generally speaking, when our knees are in tabletop position, we want the small of our back off the floor. When we go into extension next, we want the small of your back on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now, moving up here. Don't let your feet sickle. Wait, I need a break. Ooh. Sickling your feet means doing that. We don't want that. Press in between your ankles. Keep those ribs knitted together tightly. You may lift your head and shoulders off the floor. You don't have to, because what's coming next is terrible. Ooh. My inner thighs are already fatigued, but in fairness, I did do a 6-mile run and an hour of Pilates already. And Susan, if there's an angle that would be more helpful for these, let me know. Okay, this is the bad one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4. If you exhale on your way up, it makes it easier to keep this where it needs to be. To even it out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yay! And that is big time squish. You should feel that big time in here, from between your between the bottom of your rib cage all the way to your belly button. So for the next few weeks, the strength that we do is really going to focus on this top part of your cage, because remember, we started with your lats, then we moved our way up to our obliques, and now we're going to be bringing it all together. So that squish move I had you doing, the sideways lifts, keeping this part lifted and activated, making sure you feel your lat under there, and then lifting, and then moving to lifting and turning. This is still valid. I still want you doing this for a minute a day wherever you can squeeze it in. Pun intended, see what I did there? Yay! But you should feel that right here as well, especially after big time squish. And again, be careful, even when I'm not thinking about it, with that turn and lift, it's tempting to sickle your feet like I'm doing. Don't do that. But if you can't do the twist yet, that's fine. You should feel the fuck out of it right here, just lifting and lowering like that without sickling the feet. Whenever we press our ankles together, it is tempting. So, and remember, when we press our ankles together, it's tempting to like bring the soles of our feet together, and that's a sickle. We don't want a sickle. We want that type of pressure. Okay, that is it for now. Yeehaw. Hopefully you feel coached and loved and you're ready to go in at Saturday. Yep, sorry Susan, we're going from 30 seconds to 1 minute per move. Remember, you guys were in a taper for 50 fucking Ks, right? That's behind you, you're recovered. So start back in with 30 seconds, and then next week we're going to 1 minute per move. And then we're gonna start adding in more minute-long moves. So, yay! We can update the PDF next week, but for now, keep doing 30 seconds per move here, and then when we get to the next one, I want 30 seconds on that final move, 30 seconds on one side, 30 seconds on the other, and then the series after that, it's going to be 1 minute on each side. So that final move there, that really hard one, the one where it hurts right here a lot, you're not going to see less of that for a long time. Lean into that. Again, the whole name of the game going forward is going to be getting this area to talk to each other, so that when you get fatigued, you're not sagging forward, you're not hunching over, you can keep that nice locked cage. And I know that the way I refer to it as a cage doesn't necessarily resonate with a lot of people and doesn't make a lot of sense. It will make sense to you guys doing 3 days at the fair by the time we get to 3 days at the fair, because it is literally a cage that's meant to contain you and lift you up. And it's not just abs, It is how your abs connect to your obliques, how your obliques connect to your lats, and how well all of them move together in a chain. For example, you can do, remember that video I did a long time ago for T-Lam where I was like, you can do a whole lot of stuff without engaging your glutes, right? I'm like, we can stand here on one leg and not use that at all. We can have it coming from the quads, right? So when people are like, I'm quad dominant, I'm like, that's not how God made you. That is what you have done to yourself, and we can and need to undo it. So you can do all kinds of things without engaging your glutes, but that doesn't mean you're doing it correctly. So having a nice load, the same thing happens in your cage. When you got pregnant, and most people that work with me have been pregnant at one time or another, right? When you got pregnant, all of these muscles expanded, released, moved in a different way, and those neural pathways changed. We are putting them back where they need to be so that it all works together and in concert. And by in concert, I mean they're all playing the same damn song, as opposed to what normally happens, which is like, this doesn't do anything, or this doesn't respond. Like, well, I can't make this get hard, MK, I don't know what you're talking about. We have to recruit it first, right? When we knit the ribs together, when we try to make this small, when we try to press our belly button to our spine, it's not about taking the air out. It's an exhale, pressing everything in, okay? Like, not holding your breath to make your waist little, but big ol' exhale to make everything narrow and tight and tiny. And it's kind of, once you're there, you'll look back and you won't be able to even demonstrate, like, what was I doing before? And I have to have Susan do it, and then I pick on Susan and circle it in red like a really bad sorority princess, where I'm like, see that's happening there? That shouldn't happen there. And that's the best I can do, because once all this talks to each other, it doesn't stop talking to each other, and it's a really good thing. And especially if you have diastasis recti, that doesn't mean you can't do this. It means we need to work to get you back away from diastasis recti. Okay. And men have it too. It's not just women. So there you go. You're coached. You are loved. I'm going to go in a shower and then give in Susan really nasty work to do. I hope you have as much fun with your day as I'm about to have with mine. Yay! Love you, Susan and Julie and Kate and everybody else too.